There's this thing that we call sudden wealth syndrome. Now, I was featured in an article a few months ago that talks about this. This is when people come into a lot of money at one time. And there's a psychological component of this that can be really challenging. We see lottery winners, people that sell their businesses for tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, people that have inherited large levels of wealth. And it sounds good on paper, but just imagine this. Let's say you're 26 years old and your family gets shook up because your parents passed away. And all of a sudden, you just inherited $40 million that you didn't even realize existed. Like, you knew your parents had means, but you didn't realize there was 40, 50, 60, $100 million, or even 10 or 20 million, whatever the number is. You didn't realize it was that scope of it. And now you're 26 years old. Your parents have handed you everything your entire life, and now you have all this money. So it sounds great, but the problem is you have to make real decisions with real people. And a lot of people, if they know that you have that level of wealth, you have to have your guard up. And if you haven't learned up until that point as to who the professional relationships you need to be working with, right? Have a relationship with them, have an understanding of financial literacy so you don't get that money and you go buy like a neon Lamborghini, which nothing against. If you like a neon Lamborghini, that's okay. I'm just using this as an example. A lot of times people get this money and they blow through it rather quickly. And one of the biggest examples I've seen on this is if we look at some of the wealthiest families that ever existed, right? There's a really interesting show that I watched years ago called The Men Who Built America. This captured titans of industries like J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, all like the major players that built these huge businesses that changed throughout the Industrial Revolution. Now, what's interesting is that Cornelius Vanderbilt, which was one of the wealthiest businessmen that ever existed on this planet, built a huge empire. He was eventually eclipsed by Rockefeller and Carnegie as the wealthiest man in the world, but he was one of the wealthiest men that ever existed on the planet. Let that sink in for a second. Now, if you go down just 5 generations, a very famous anchor on TV who's actually very successful in his own right, his name's Anderson Cooper. He's very successful. He is a direct descendant of Gloria Vanderbilt, and he has no money in his trust fund. Now, how is that possible? How do you take one of the wealthiest patriarchs that ever existed, not just in this country, but on the planet ever, where in just 100 years, in just 5 generations, that his great-great-great-great-grandchild didn't have anything left in the trust fund? And so the reality is that even though they had all this wealth within a few generations, because the heirs were spendthrifts, they had lavish mansions, they spent too much money, by the time it got to Anderson Cooper and his mom, there was nothing less. Now, fortunately, he's very successful and he's doing pretty well, but it's interesting because when we compare that to the Rockefeller family, which is around the same time, and they've developed the modern family office, which not only is setting up the appropriate legal structures and investment strategies and protection strategies, a big proponent of this is how are they educating the next generation so when they inherit all of this wealth, they're good stewards of that capital. They have the financial literacy, they know what to do. Right, and they all come together as a team, which is, again, why we bring everybody together. A place like this could be a venue. There's other types of venue, but that's really the key of really instilling of how you're getting money to the next generation. So they are not, hit out of left field. That's like, I have all this money, I have all these decisions to make, and I don't know what to do. Let me just go shopping. Or maybe they're not protected, right? So maybe they're going through a divorce. Or maybe all of a sudden their spouse learns of this and they didn't have a good thing going on and the money's exposed, and now their spouse or their future ex-spouse can get access to that capital. Or there's a lawsuit or something that had gone wrong and they didn't know what to do, and that's how money slips through families' fingers. Are you with me on that?